When you meet the railroad, the leader of the railroad, Desdemona, doesn't want to admit you into the railroad as a member until you prove yourself. Deacon comes to your defense as your champion and brings you on a mission to the railroad's former headquarters to try and retrieve some lost technology. He bets that if you succeed, Desdemona will admit you into the ranks of the railroad. Their former headquarters is an unmarked location south of Drumlin Diner. Head south from Drumlin Diner until you find a pipe that leads underground. The reason this is their former headquarters is because the Institute discovered where they were and invaded the headquarters, killing many people. As you weave your way through the tunnels that lead to the headquarters, you find the corpses of railroad agents who died trying to defend the headquarters. We quickly see just how devastating this attack by the Institute was. We find 10 bodies of former railroad agents: Roger, Maven, Miss Boom, Sly Nicholas, Francis Odell, Mr. Mathers, Kelly Kay, Songbird, Tommy Whispers, and Beatrice Bell. There are more dead railroad members here in this headquarters than there are in the new railroad headquarters under the church. We can start to see exactly why the caretaker seems to be so scarred from this event.
I don't know how much more I got of this. What was that? Oh, nothing. Listen, I think it's much safer if we pretend we don't know each other. You were there, at the switchboard. One day, the Institute's gonna kill us all, I tell you.
When you finally get to the former headquarters of the railroad, you discover that it's a place called the Switchboard, a former pre-war bunker that belonged to the Defense Intelligence Agency for the United States. Deacon tells you a little bit about it.
We're entering a secret Defense Intelligence Agency research lab, a place that never officially existed. It's called the Switchboard. The prototype is locked up in the heart of the facility.
The majority of information you learn about the DIA and the Switchboard, you learn from the various terminals scattered throughout the Switchboard. The Switchboard was dedicated to working on PAM, which stands for Predictive Analytic Machine. That's right, the very same PAM that you meet in the railroad. The railroad discovered PAM here at the Switchboard and reprogrammed it to suit the railroad's needs. PAM is an experimental project, and even though she's incredibly impressive, at the time of the Great War, she was still far from being completed. However, she did provide the United States with some important intelligence. We learned from the terminals that PAM was instrumental for stabilizing Taiwan after the Pascal incident. We don't know exactly what the Pascal incident was, but we do know that Interplay at one time was working on a new Fallout game called Fallout Extreme. The leaked details to that unfinished game mentions political instability in Taiwan. In that game, Imperial remnants from Taiwan actually retakes mainland China. Perhaps the instability between Taiwan and China caused some conflict near the Taiwan Strait, which might be the Pascal incident. That's really all we know about it. DIA agents at the Switchboard had been working on PAM for quite some time, at least over a decade. The earliest entry we find is from June 19th, 2076, when they're still working up the tweaks of the predictive analytic machine. At this time, PAM is having a hard time predicting the future based on the unpredictability of human decisions. This is something we actually learn when we get to the railroad. PAM didn't predict your coming. She didn't predict the sole survivor appearing at the railroad. Seemingly random events like that throw off her calculations. Fast forward to December 17th, 2075, and we find documentation that PAM was being presented to one of the United States military's generals. We learn from that conversation that PAM predicts that there's a 91% chance that the Chinese have conducted some sort of large-scale experimentation using stealth technology in the United States of America. This freaks out the general, who wonders if the Chinese are using stealth submarines. Pam says she doesn't know. The general asks Pam to guess, and Pam can't guess because there's too many human variables involved. Interestingly, in this terminal entry, we learned that the stealth boy was reverse engineered from communist Chinese technology technology called the He-Gui suit, or the Hai-Gui suit. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. This is the real name of the Chinese stealth armor that we find in Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas. The Fallout 3 version of the Chinese stealth armor actually conceals the wearer. It has an invisibility field, but the Fallout New Vegas version does not. It simply increases your sneak +5. This Chinese technology was not only the basis for the unstable Stealth Boy personal invisibility field, but also for the Stealth Suit Mark II, which was introduced to us in the Old World Blues add-on for Fallout New Vegas, which, when it is fully upgraded, grants +15 to sneak, 1 to perception, 1 to agility, and increases movement speed while crouched by 20%. It's neat that they referred to this suit of armor in the terminal at the switchboard. Finally, the year the bombs drop in 2077, we find a record of the DIA team working on the predictive analytic machine, placing the mind that they have created in the body of an Assaultron. At this moment, Pam predicts that there's only a 12% chance that a full-scale nuclear war between China and the United States will happen that month. Of course, we know that in October of that very year, it happens. The switchboard was operated by extremely high-ranking officers in the United States military. In their correspondence, they frequently use terminology that is used today by the intelligence agencies within the United States. Dr. Ramarajan is one of the researchers at the switchboard who is working on the predictive analytic machine. He detects an unknown signal called TPN-30, which freaks him out a little bit. We can presume that this is some sort of Chinese signal organizing covert agents in the United States of America leading up to the Great War of 2077. He uses terminology like HUMINT, which stands for human intelligence. He basically means clandestine activity. These are people who are undercover who happen to know something about this particular topic. He's trying to organize them. And he uses the terminology SIGINT, which stands for signals intelligence. This is any kind of intelligence that they might have been able to intercept by intercepting some sort of signal. Corporal Jay Faraday sends an email to Corporal Michael Gillespie encouraging the corporal to come to a Halloween party. He says that there's a cute girl there named Kate whom he's sure the corporal will like, and he promises that this isn't going to become a honeypot situation. A honeypot is when an attractive female uses her sexual prowess to get top secret information out of a high-ranking government official. Apparently from this terminal we understand that many of the people working in the switchboard were afraid of being manipulated in honeypot situations like this. Now the personnel working at the switchboard before the bombs dropped were undercover. Officially, they were employees of a Slocum's Joe donut shop. Indeed, the switchboard itself is built underneath a Slocum's Joe. When you get to the end, you actually take an elevator up into the ruins of the donut shop. The elevator is hidden behind a bookshelf. We find evidence as to the extent that the agents here at the switchboard went to maintain cover. Every week, they were given an email that talked about the hot donuts of the week, so that if any friends and family asked them about what went on at work, they could say, oh, well, the raspberry and cream-filled donuts were the hot items of the week. They were even given revenue and traffic statistics. If somebody asks you, tell them that traffic was up 18%. At the end, they are reminded, deflect, deflect, deflect. The fewer details you give to friends and family, the less likely you are to be tripped up. The existence of stealth Chinese operations right here at home was a real source of anxiety for the members of the DIA who worked here at the switchboard. Now, what is possibly the most interesting terminal in the switchboard is the DEFCON status terminal in the main office room. In January of 2077, the military reduces DEFCON to DEFCON 3 and gives an all-clear for Anchorage. That's evidence of the United States military successfully freeing Anchorage from Sino-Soviet oppression. At 3 minutes past midnight on October 23, 2077, the United States detects 3 unidentified flying aircraft off the coast of California and requests advice. 3 hours later, at 3:37 in the morning, the United States spots a squadron of unidentified airplanes, but they think that it's possibly Chinese. They are flying at a high altitude off the Bering Strait. Less than 6 hours later, 9:13 in the morning, the United States detects 4 nuclear launches. DEFCON is raised to DEFCON 2. 4 minutes later, 9:17 a.m., NORAD confirms birds in the air. DEFCON is raised to DEFCON 1. Nuclear war imminent. It takes 9 minutes for the United States to affirm a response. At 9:26 in the morning, the United States approves response scenario MXCN-91. they retaliate with their own nuclear arsenal. Less than 20 minutes later, at 9:42 in the morning, the first bombs drop on the United States. They report confirmed strikes at Pennsylvania and New York. 5 minutes later, the entire system goes offline. 9:47 in the morning. This is the time that all of the clocks in the wasteland are permanently set to, because that's when the bombs dropped. What's important about this terminal entry is it tells us that it's likely that the Chinese struck first. They are defeated in Alaska, the United States retakes Anchorage, and then later that year, we see from this terminal that they send at least 3 aircraft to the United States and they launch at least 4 bombs. 9 minutes after the United States gets the confirmation from NORAD that the Chinese have dropped bombs on the US, only then do they retaliate. This is a topic I want to explore more in another video, who dropped bombs first during the Great War of 2077. I will be using evidence from the switchboard, but if you know of any other terminal entries, any other evidence that can go towards the argument that I present in that video, let me know in the comments below. I want to make sure that I'm thorough. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the full story of the Switchboard, a former research facility for the DIA which developed PAM, the Predictive Analytic Machine, discovered by the railroad and turned into the railroad headquarters where they recover PAM and reprogram PAM to suit their own purposes, until the Switchboard is raided by the Institute, killing 10, at least, of their members and sending the railroad into hiding. I love finding terminal entries talking about the military before the war. What did you guys think of the Switchboard? Did you like the lore that came along with it? Let me know in the comments below. I read all of your comments and I use them as inspiration for my future videos. If you like what I do and you want to support me in a more personal way, consider becoming one of my patrons on Patreon. Patreon subscribers gain access to my private Discord server, as well as a bunch of other cool Oxhorn perks. But more than anything, ladies and gentlemen, I'm just so glad that you're here watching this video today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow morning bright and early with a brand new video.